Donald Trump's federal election interference trial, one of the last chances to hold him accountable for the crimes of January 6th before the upcoming election.
To authorize the prosecution of a president for his official acts would open a Pandora's box from which this nation may never recover.
His lawyers stood before the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals, probably the second most important court in all the land, and before the nation and those three judges argued that a president can effectively do whatever he wants.
In today's video, I'm breaking down the three most ridiculous hypotheticals the Supreme Court used to destroy Trump's immunity claims. We'll look at why his own lawyer accidentally admitted some of his actions weren't protected, and how Trump's Twitter meltdown shows he never saw this coming.
Justice Sonia Sotomayor grilled Trump's attorney, John Sawyer, on the notion of granting presidents absolute immunity.
A corrupt person, and he orders the military or orders someone to assassinate him. Is that within his official acts that for which he can get immunity?
Previously, Sawyer had argued that the president could order SEAL Team 6 to assassinate one of his political rivals and not face any consequences for it.
By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why the court ruled 6-3 against Trump's invisible force field theory and what it means for his multiple criminal cases. Stick around to see the exact moment when Trump's legal strategy imploded like a cheap balloon. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great. Thank you so much. Now, back to the video.
Trump's defense in the election interference cases, where he argues and his lawyers argue that he enjoys executive privilege or immunity at the time the January 6 riots took place, well, then that means that he has the immunity that presidents typically enjoy. He also kind of fails to answer what Sotomayor is asking about in a way that makes her pleased with his take, right?
When the Supreme Court took on Trump's immunity claims, they didn't just bring legal arguments, they brought imagination. Justice Sotomayor delivered what many are calling a knockout punch, with a hypothetical that had Trump's lawyers squirming. Could a president order Navy SEAL Team 6 to assassinate a political rival and still claim immunity? She asked, staring down Trump's legal team, who suddenly looked like they'd forgotten how to breathe. The courtroom wasn't exactly Comedy Central, but it wasn't far off. The justices turned into creative writing professors, crafting scenarios that would make spy novelists jealous. Imagine showing up to defend your client only to face questions about presidential assassinations, military coups, and selling nuclear secrets. Talk about a tough day at the office. Sotomayor was just warming up. She continued firing hypotheticals like a legal machine gun, organizes a military coup to hold on to power immune, takes a bribe in exchange for a pardon immune. With each immune, Trump's lawyers visibly wilted. They came expecting constitutional debate, but got a horror movie marathon where the president was always the villain. The real beauty was watching Trump's legal dream team try to answer these questions. As the source noted, they started sweating through their expensive suits when asked about the limits of presidential immunity.
As a matter of constitutional bedrock American law, there can be no criminal accountability for anything he does, no matter how violent or evil.
Could a president who ordered SEAL Team 6 to assassinate a political rival who was not impeached, would he be subject to criminal prosecution?
If he were impeached and convicted first. And
So your answer is no.
As his lawyer was forced to concede having his political opponents murdered.
Could a president order SEAL Team 6 to assassinate a political rival? That's an official act in order to SEAL Team 6.
Their responses were about as coherent as Trump explaining nuclear policy. Lots of words, zero substance. I'm not saying they were unprepared, but their legal strategy seemed to be hoping the fire alarm would go off. You know things are bad when even your friends won't back you up. Even the conservative justices, including Brett Kavanaugh, whom Trump appointed, couldn't hide their discomfort with these sweeping immunity claims. The source mentioned the justices were not rushing to Trump's defense. Shocking for a court that Trump thinks should be his personal legal bodyguards because he nominated some of them. The justices' hypotheticals weren't just random thought experiments. They were carefully designed to expose the absurdity of Trump's position. Sell ambassadorships for cash? According to Trump's team, that's potentially immune. Order illegal military actions? Possibly immune. The justices were essentially asking, so the president could commit actual crimes and get away with it? While Trump's lawyers tried not to directly say yes, even though that was their entire argument. The atmosphere in the courtroom was described as somewhere between a comedy club and a classroom where a student forgot there was a test today. Picture it. 9 of America's top legal minds playing a game of what's the most outrageous thing a president could do, while Trump's lawyers prayed for a power outage or sudden collective amnesia.
All day today, what the Supreme Court justices were asking about is what is and isn't protected, and what does give the president immunity and what doesn't give him immunity. So in response to what Sotomayor said in that last clip, he says, I agree with that characterization of the indictment, and that confirms immunity because the characterization is that there's a series of official acts that were done for honorable.
First of all, does the president enjoy absolute immunity about anything and everything he does? No, the Supreme Court has already ruled he doesn't. Okay.
What made these scenarios so effective was how they sliced through the nonsense of Trump's immunity claims. When Trump's team argued that presidential actions were untouchable, the justices basically said, okay, so presidential assassination squads are cool then. It's hard to maintain your legal dignity when forced to explain why presidential murder for hire might be constitutionally protected. Trump's team entered the Supreme Court with the swagger of folks who thought they had this in the bag. After all, Trump appointed 3 justices. They must owe him, right? Wrong. Instead of a red carpet, they found themselves in a legal escape room where every hypothetical scenario led to the same uncomfortable conclusion. Unlimited presidential power is dangerous. The court's creative scenarios highlighted a serious concern. If presidents could label any action as official business and escape accountability, what would stop future presidents from truly horrific abuses of power? This wasn't just about Trump, it was about protecting democracy from any president who might decide laws are just optional suggestions. When Trump's lawyers tried arguing their position, they sounded like kids explaining why they should be allowed to eat ice cream for every meal. Sure, it sounds great to them, but everyone else in the room could see the obvious problems. The justices weren't having it. Their hypotheticals systematically dismantled the idea that presidents can operate without consequences. So, the Supreme Court just gave Trump a reality check the size of his ego. After getting demolished by those brilliant hypotheticals, our orange friend didn't take it well. Predictably, Donnie Diapers exploded with rage and immediately launched into fundraising mode, painting himself as the victim of a giant political witch hunt. Classic Trump playbook. Delay the legal stuff while crying about how unfair everything is. The best part? His own appointees didn't save him. Turns out the law actually matters more than loyalty to grumpy Trumpy. Who would have thought we'd need the highest court in the land to confirm presidents can't just do whatever illegal nonsense they want? What a time to be alive.